I'm Dave James, introducing a cassette we are calling Remember When Loggers Climbed Trees? This relates the story of logging of the past century, and it ties in with the story of Simpson Timber Company, which in 1990 became a century old. 50 years ago, Simpson published a history of its first 50 years called Green Commonwealth. And in 1990, it published Family Trees, a story of a century of operation in Mason County, Washington. Also giving Simpson history is the book Grisdale, which I wrote about Camp Grisdale when it closed in 1985. The camp had operated 40 years and was the last logging camp in the United States. And another book, Big Trees and Steam Lokies, was published in 1988, telling about the size of the trees and the types of equipment used in this long period of logging in Mason County. Now we'll open the cassette with a presentation of a 70-year-old film made by Oscar Levine, a longtime tree farm manager for Simpson. This was taken when he was a young man in Minnesota with the state of Minnesota Forestry Department. And it shows the last cuttings of the great pine forests of that state. 40 years ago, women members of the Tacoma Junior League, whose dads and grandfathers had been loggers, made a film called Age of Steam. This covers the entire period of steam donkeys, steam locomotives, and the powerful men who did the work in that period.
The sound of steam logging began to ring through the timbered hills of the Pacific Coast in 1895. 70 years later, the final silence fell on one of the most colorful chapters in American history. What kind of men left these stumps? What kind of world did they live in? What was it like here 70 years ago? Listen.
There used to be a logging camp right where we're standing. Old photographs show what it was like. It was a little ox team operation where my father was a partner, and I went to work there when I was 15 years old. Animal logging was a pretty small-time proposition. We were out there to make our fortune. There wasn't any gold to dig, or buffalo to hunt, or wild cattle to round up, so we had to try it on timber. We built skid roads out of logs laid crosswise back into the timber that we meant to cut. There was something laughable about us puny little critters tackling those tremendous trees with nothing more than tools that we could hold in our hands. And we felt that every big tree we dropped was a personal victory, and posed, sometimes in our Sunday clothes, for photographs of our bigger conquests. We took rain, cold, back-breaking work, danger, and even death in stride. Steam power never was successfully applied to fallen. The old methods never changed until after World War II. But believe me, we put down an awful lot of timber with those hand-powered misery whips. We were fairly satisfied with hand falling, but we sure weren't satisfied with oxen for hauling out logs. They were only good for short downhill pulls, slow as a glacier on flat ground, and they drew flies. Most of us figured we'd never get ahead with our fortunes hitched to ox teams. And besides, a lot of us were machinery-minded and full of Yankee ingenuity. We believed in power. In those days, power meant steam.
Amazing invention, miracle of ingenuity. Dole Beer's patented steam logging machine. Fame and fortune awaits those enterprising loggers who avail themselves of the unlimited power of steam. This road near Shelton, Washington, follows the grade of an old logging railway, leading back to where enterprising loggers first did avail themselves of the unlimited power of steam.
You can bet those first steam engines really impressed us. The engineer was a man of pride and dignity, with the latest marvels of scientific progress at his fingertips. Gone were the oxen. horse-pulled the line far out along the skid road, where the hook tender and his crew dogged it to a log, using blocks for extra leverage. A couple of turns of the line were flipped over the spool, and the engineer shot the steam to her. The line tender scrambled to get the slack out of the way. The log came out of the woods, unless it hung up or the rig broke down. Of course, we still loaded cars by hand or with horses. But we finally had the power needed to log those giant forests. We called the machines donkey engines. We began to figure out improvements and built them into our donkey engines. We replaced the spool and line horse with a main line drum to pull the logs in and a haulback drum to get the line back to the woods. We soon figured out how to use steam donkeys instead of horses for loading cars. We took to using one donkey to yard logs from where they fell to a skid road, and maybe 2 or 3 more donkeys along the road to skid them to the railroad. Another to load cars. This method, ground lead logging, was in general use up till about the middle of World War I.
Modern loggers live at home and drive to work. In the early days of steam logging, a logger's life was different.
When I first came to Hopium, Washington, it sure didn't look like much. I was just 17 years old, fresh off at the ship from Norway, and could speak about 5 words of English. I tell you, I was plenty scared among all those strangers until I met a fellow immigrant who understood the language. He helped me buy some logging boots and get a job for a grub and a bunk and $50 a month. Next thing, I'm riding out to a logging camp with fellows speaking Russian and German and Finnish and French Canadian and English and Swedish and some talking Norwegian, so I felt a little better. When we got to camp, there was a big crowd waiting for the train. The whole crew had just quit because of bad food, and they had their bedrolls, and they watched them pretty close for fear the bedbugs would just walk away with them. That was some camp. A careless man could drown in the mud. You could stick your hands through the cracks in the buildings. The bunkhouses had 1,000 cold drafts, and one big stove with about 100 pieces of wet clothes hung around it to dry, smelling strong enough to choke a skunk. The bunks were padded with straw and bed bugs. During the winter, we mostly got along without baths. And I tell you, when it warmed up in the spring, we just jumped in the river and washed the winter away. Those old camps might have been all right in the ox team days, but it didn't take steam loggers very long to figure out something better. We made buildings we could load on railroad cars and move them right along with the road. For their times, those were pretty good camps. Warm bunkhouses, maybe only 10 men to the room, shower rooms, clean cookhouses, and food. It wasn't fancy, but I tell you, we ate big and we ate the best. Building railroads was tough work in the early days. That was before they invented the bulldozer. We worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, rain or shine, and it only shined once in a while. We built a track right through the big timber, and pretty soon trains were hauling that timber out to the mills. You should see some of the railroads we built. When we came to the canyons, we built trestles, and it didn't matter how high or how long they were. We just got up there in the air and put them together, one piece at a time, till we came to the other side. Then we came to the steep hills. We built inclines and rigged cables to pull the empty trains up and snub the loaded trains down. It worked like a charm, unless something broke. If you knew where to look, you could still find some steam lokies in 1966. But I remember when the steam locomotive was the heart of the logging operations. Some didn't look any different from those used at the time on regular railroads. But there were a lot of peculiar-looking logging locomotives, specially built to go where railroads never went before or since. A good many used gear drives to boost up the pulling power, and they could all go around bends sharp enough to twist your neck. Engine builders had a lot of ideas about the best place for the cylinders, straight up and down at the side, or coming together under the boiler, or working at an angle on both sides. And loggers used big mainline Lokis as good as anything you'd find on the Northern Pacific. The great steam locomotives are all gone now. But those of us who built and worked on steam railroads will never forget them.
You could hear the trains in the 1900s, the 1920s, or the 1940s. They were always there, the heart of steam logging, no matter what other changes came. This beautiful residential suburb of Seattle looked considerably different when the boys came marching back from World War I. Let's hear about it from one of them.
You'd never recognize it. It was all thick timber until we started cutting in 1919. Nobody lived here or could live here until we cleared it off. But I don't think we gave that angle a thought. We were loggers, first, last, and all the time. The Panama Canal had opened volume markets, and we were out for volume production. Ground lead logging died a sudden death. Everybody put their rigging up in the air. We generally picked a standing tree for a spar. A high climber cut off the limbs and top and hung the blocks and guy lines. We called it high lead because the main line and haulback went through blocks 100 feet in the air instead of laying along the ground. Choker men hooked the rigging to the logs and scrambled out of the way. A high lead system lifted the front end of the logs as we pulled them in. Plenty about logging that appealed to a young buck like me. I like to get my picture taken with the things I thought worthwhile. The big log, the long tree, the highball crew, proud of its record production. But I'll guarantee when we got our pictures taken was the only time you ever saw us so solemn, except maybe the first day back after a trip to town. A hotshot rigger had no trouble getting a job in the 20s. Everybody was crazy for higher production, bigger machines, lower costs, more power. High lead was just a start. We combined the yarder and loader into the so-called unit. And as for ways to use power, we invented one system after another, each bigger and faster than the last, until it seemed like the sky was full of rigging. By this time, I was working in the mountains with a bunch of real highball loggers. The drive for high production reached its climax with the interlocking skidder. It could sit on one spot and log a circle 4/5 of a mile in diameter. A steel tower replaced the spar tree. The system used a skyline so logs could be lifted at will while the machine yarded them in. It straddled the railroad tracks. A string of empty cars moved right under the skidder. They came back out one by one for loading. The whole rig weighed about 300 tons and used a crew of about 25 men. This was big-time logging, and I looked down on people who were still fiddling around with little stuff like high lead. I got my laughs from crazy ideas other people kept trying out, such as yarding with tractors or hauling with trucks, or trying diesel engines instead of steam. We were hard-nosed loggers. I looked out for myself, and if anyone got hurt, that was his tough luck. If he wasn't willing to run the risk, he ought to stay out of the woods. Steam engines were bound to cause fires once in a while. There was a chance we had to take. If we happened to set the woods afire, I fought fire. I wrote off the lost time, and I guess the owners wrote off the lost timber. Forest landowners insisted land like this would grow timber again. That was their lookout, not mine. I was paid to help get logs.
So that was what steam logging was like as it reached its climax toward the end of the Roaring Twenties. Changes following the Depression and World War II made steam machinery increasingly out of date. Events like the retirement of the last steam locomotive aroused plenty of emotion. New machinery and new methods have taken over in the forest industry. Now that it's gone, we begin to realize that the age of steam logging was a period of wonderful accomplishment. When steam logging began, the Northwest was only a handful of people scratching at the edge of a monstrous, uninhabitable forest. The loggers came and worked. Where they seemed at the time to be destroying the land, the stumps and litter have disappeared under millions of acres of lustily growing new forests. The loggers cleared land and furnished building materials for the cities and the towns that make the Northwest home to millions of people. The great permanent forest industries they founded provide half the livelihoods in Washington and Oregon. We live now in the better world they helped to build, while the age of the steam loggers passes into history.
Arthur Godfrey was at the height of his popularity in national broadcasting in 1957 when he came to Shelton for 2 days to tell the story of timber production.
Great state of Washington. Here's Arthur.
In case you just joined us, we're in a little lean-to here in the middle of the woods, the great Northwest. About 40 miles southwest of Seattle, on the shores of Mason Lake, is a recreation area owned by the Simpson Logging Company. This is the spot where the great Simpson Industries began, right here in 1895. And now this spot is a place for the employees to come and enjoy themselves on this beautiful Lake Mason, with boating and swimming and fishing and camping here in the woods. And such woods, such forests. Oh, those of you who have the TV on this morning are going to be treated to some of the most beautiful sights. If only we had colors for you. If only we could show you that shade of green in there with the green moss on the trees. And the beauty, the magic beauty of that forest is so, well, it's just indescribable, that's all. We have with us our good folks from California, Ann Leonardo and Stan Noonan, and Ken Berry and Billy Strange. Now, let's see, who else do we have over there? Ken, we said, and Stan, and Ann Leonardo, and Jimmy, and, of course, the Northwest Group under the direction of Tommy Peterson, who are in very good shape this morning. Instruments a little dripping, wet. But outside of that, nothing. Let's have a little music to start off with. Let's take one of you guys. Ken, how about you? You in good shape? Ken Berry, dear friends, winner of a Talent Scout show a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I might have gone fishing, got to thinking it over, that road to the river, that's a mighty long way. Well, it must be the season, no rhyme or no reason, just taking it easy. It's my lazy day. Well, there ain't no use in calling, 'cause I ain't a-comin'. Just get you on by me. Go on, get out of my way. Get out of my way. Well, a little deep thinking might drive me to drinking. Just taking it easy. It's my lazy day.
Guys. Ken Berry is that boy's name. Now, I think it would be nice if we would meet some of our folks here. Let's get Dave James over here first. Dave James is the Director of Public Relations for the Simpson Logging Company. Dave, sit down here with us this morning. You'll never know how much I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you guys. You know, folks who know me know that I've been nuts about forestry for years, but I don't know anything about it. I want to learn about it. Tell me, first of all, you want to tell me something about your company, Simpson Logging Company. You've been here how long?
62 years now, Arthur.
The company's been here. How long you been with them? You ain't no 62.
Well, I feel 62 this morning. I've been with them 10 years.
Have you? And you always done public relations work?
I was in newspaper work before I came with Simpson.
Uh-huh. Were you ever a logger yourself?
I chopped kindling. No, I haven't been a working logger. I've been a fellow who's gone out and observed what they did and tried to communicate that to other people so they'd know loggers better.
It takes a special breed of cat to do that work, doesn't it?
Well, it takes all kinds of cats. We take, in our work, we get people mainly from this area, men who know the strain of working in the woods and the hills, and it takes a good, strong specimen if you're talking about loggers. Now, if you're talking about publicity men, well,
Yes, I know. Sort of a decadent type. Only you look pretty healthy and strong and rugged.
Well, it rained on me last night and I swelled.
Doggone. Now, who do you have here with you?
Oh, we have a lot of fellows. Oscar Levine, our managing forester of the South Olympic Tree Farm, is here to talk with you about reforestation. Bud Pune, who manages the land and timber, he has some 337,000 acres to look after. Time he gets up till he goes to bed at night. And then we have Max Schmidt, who, in addition to being one of the important men in logging, has the biggest feet in the logging industry.
How big are his feet?
Well, the longest rule we had was 15 and a half inches. He wears 15 and a half size, and we have to have special shoes made for him.
How tall a man would he be?
He'd be taller than that if he didn't have such big feet. He's 6 feet 7 inches now.
Oh, wow. 6'7", huh? If his feet were straightened out, he'd be a big fella.
And I gain a foot or two. Got his full growth.
I bet you enjoy your work here. This recreation area used by the employees of the Simpson Company?
Yes, all the employees come here throughout the summer. We have a picnic every Sunday for 8 weeks in a row. And last year, over 5,000 people came to our picnic. The company furnishes a certain amount of the ingredients, and the wives bake cakes, and everybody gets together and has a wonderful time. We find that recreation sponsored by the company and the employees mutually creates better feeling between the people and the company. Our company has men who've worked third and fourth generations, and it's kind of hard to say who owns the company. Mr. Reed has the technical ownership, but all of us feel like we own it in spirit.
Uh-huh. Well, that makes for pleasant working conditions when you feel like that. And you want Bud Pune to tell me about your reforestation program as we go along?
Bud can point out to you some of the problems and the objectives we have in the sustained yield. And Oscar Levine is the man who handles the seeds and the cones and deals with the bears and the mice. And you might like to talk with him about that. I believe Bud would give you an introduction to the work that he covers, and then Oscar could come along afterwards.
Okay. As soon as I start this next quarter hour, I'll call him over here.
Fine.
What's the name of your chef?
Kenny Frank.
Kenny Frank. Golly, he's something, isn't he? Huh?
He's a good cook. Good fellow, too.
Boy, what a good cook.
You know, I was kind of surprised there last night when you had that big piece of sirloin. There's a question of which is going to eat who. You really worked it over.
Man, that was the best beef I've ever eaten in my life.
That must have been what got you out at 5 o'clock this morning to swim.
I don't know. I felt so good when I woke up, and that lake looked so inviting.
Yeah, but it sure made us feel chilled. You know, a logger's pretty tough, but they don't go swimming at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, maybe you don't have to be tough. Maybe you just have to be nuts. But I like to have my swim every morning. I feel bad if I don't.
Well, you look good doing it.
Well, I had a pair of shorts on, but you ought to see something.
Well, that was fortunate.
Well, Dave, it's very pleasant to sit down and talk with you, sir. We're going to fell this tree in the next quarter hour. It takes about 7 or 8 minutes. So we better get Jimmy. How about you, Jimmy Carroll? Get on here and sing us a song. Jimmy Carroll, featured with the Aqua Follies, the Seafair.
What'll I do when you are far away and I am blue? What'll I do? What'll I do when someone's kissing you and I am blue? What'll I do? What'll I do with just a photograph to tell my troubles to? when I'm alone with only dreams of you that won't come true, what'll I do? What'll I do with just a photograph to tell my troubles to? When I'm alone with only dreams of you that won't come true, what'll I do?
By golly, that's nice. Sitting alongside of me here, in his tin hat, is Bud Pune, manager of lands and timber for the Simpson Logging Company. Been with the company 30 years, Bud, eh?
That's correct.
What was your job when you started out?
Job was what they call a hook tender. That's for this company.
A hook tender. What the world did you do?
Well, you're in charge of the crew that yards the logs out of the woods to landing where they load the logs.
Then you were a show-enough logger to begin with, huh?
Well, for this company.
Uh-huh. I see.
I started for other companies, the lesser capacity.
I see. These tin hats that you wear, is that what you call them, tin hats?
That's right.
They're a new thing, aren't they?
Well, they're fairly new in the logging industry, yes. They're to protect your head in case a limb falls out of one of these trees.
Yeah, Dave was telling me yesterday you call those things widow makers.
That's right.
When they fall down.
We don't like to see so many widows, so we got the hats for the boys.
These limbs fall down, you mean while the men are working on the tree?
That's right.
Yeah. I guess this would help a great deal. You see them being used nowadays in the construction work of all kinds everywhere. It's a good idea. And of course now it's a badge of honor here in the woods. Huh? That means you're a sure enough logger.
That's wear them around town to show that they're loggers here.
Now Dave James was just telling me that you are responsible for maintaining permanent forest growth on 337,000 acres.
That's correct. My organization is.
337,000 acres. Now, what do you mean responsible for maintaining permanent forest growth? As you cut it down, you replant?
That's correct. And we protect it from forest fire, insects, disease. So we have not only a replanting, but a protection program.
Uh-huh.
Nature will reseed a lot of this itself if we just give it half a chance to keep the fire out.
Oh, what measures do you take to prevent the fires?
Oh, we have crews that stand by with fire equipment, trucks, pumpers, trucks. We have roads to most all the various areas so we can transport crews in a hurry. If the fire breaks out, we have lookouts.
To spot the fire immediately and get in there.
Right.
I see.
Get it within a few minutes, don't take much to put it out.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You, therefore, must maintain lookouts all the time.
That's
These fire breaks that they build in the woods, do they help the great openings that they make long?
well, our fire break here is standing timber. We cut it in areas that leave standing timber between logged off areas until the fire hazard is reduced in that area, and then we cut the intervening strips. Very seldom will fire in this country here in the Northwest run through standing timber.
Oh, well, now that's interesting. And with all that, do you have this kind of rain often? You get this kind of weather lots of the time?
Well, about 10 months out of the year.
10 months. I just wondered if you get that much rain, how come this stuff ever burns?
Well, it's generally this time of the year, it's very dry. This is just a little unusual right now.
Oh. Well, we've had some of the darndest breaks in weather in the past month, and we rated a little rain this morning. We had this coming to us. We've had weather open up for us when it just wasn't supposed to. So I'm delighted to see it myself. But it's nice to know you. I want to talk to this friend of yours here, an associate who is your managing forester, huh? Oscar Levine. Oscar, will you come over here and see us, please? Thanks, Bud. We'll see you some more. Oscar Levine, who is the managing forester of the Simpson Olympic Tree Farm, and native of Minnesota, eh?
That's right.
Been in the business how long?
Well, since June 1st, 1919, I believe that's around 38 years.
June 1, 1919. How'd you start?
Well, I started out with the State Division of Forestry in Minnesota, worked summers and attended college until I got through, and then went back into as a ranger in 1924 in Minnesota.
What a wonderful life you've had. In the woods all your life, huh?
All my life.
And what's your job now as managing forester? How do you work? What's it composed of?
Well, Bud Dewan give you a little rundown on what the protection is. And we have our Simpson Olympic Tree Farm has the management of 225,000 acres of Simpson-owned land. And it's our job to keep that in full production, every acre growing trees.
Mm-hmm. Oscar, they tell me that we're going to top a tree this morning. I want you to help me with this. Tell me about it. Who's going to do the tree topping?
The tree topping will be done by the loggers, and they work under Max Schmidt, the general logging superintendent.
There goes a man up a tree now. He's got the teeth in his shoes there, eh? Spikes in his shoes like the old telephone lineman?
There are spikes, yes.
And a belt around the tree?
There's a safety belt around him, yes, as he crawls up the tree.
How tall will that tree be?
Well, that tree is over 200 feet.
200 feet high.
At the bottom, I believe the diameter is about 4 feet in diameter. The stump.
How old would the tree be, sir?
The tree would be around 400 years old. It's an over-mature tree.
There's a point you reach, isn't there, when the tree is on a decline?
On a decline, it's like any other plant life or animal life. They reach a peak and then they start to decline or decay in the case of a tree.
So it's a much more economical thing to take trees out before they reach that stage.
At maturity, the same as you harvest a field crop.
I see. I know some people get to love their old trees so much, but actually it's the wrong way to do it, eh?
That's right.
Just about the top.
Golly, look, that takes a man in terrific physical shape. Look at him climbing up there. He probably weighs a couple hundred pounds.
Well, that fellow, no, I imagine he's around 180 pounder. He's down in trim shape.
Now, what's he going to do where he is? Take the top of that off?
Already stopped the undercut.
Yes.
I got a card here that says that man's name is Hap Johnson.
Hap Johnson.
35 years old, been logging since he was 15. Maybe we'll get a chance to say hello to him after. He's up there working the axe on the top of that tree. That would be about how far below the top?
Well, it'd be about 40 or 50 feet below the top. The diameter of the tree up there
Getting
is
this all here.
14 inches or more.
Ready to start sawing?
14 inches, eh? He's working a saw now.
Yeah, just saw, yes.
He's going to saw the top of that thing off.
Yes.
How in the world does he keep it from falling on him? How's he know which way to go?
Well, he's putting
I'll
a notch
ready to
and
go.
another cut in there, and that'll be the direction it falls, and then he will move around the tree and put the final cut in it, and they fall away from him.
Look at the work that man is doing. Lying against his safety rope with his feet stuck into the bark, and he's cutting the tree away at shoulder level with his saw.
Getting close.
Here she goes. Look at here. Look at the top of that tree sway with him up there.
Sometimes sways back and forth.
Wowie, what a ride he's getting. And he's up there 150 feet.
All of that now, yes.
Woo! Boy, what a thrilling job. Isn't that something to see? And there's our friend on the top of his tree that he's just topped. That was Johnson up there, wasn't it, I believe?
That's Hap, yeah.
Hap Johnson up there. And sitting alongside of me is the logging manager of the Simpson Logging Company, Max Schmidt, Jr. Let's see, his father worked 31 years with Simpson, and how long you been with him, Max?
Oh, 20 years, counting going to school and the service.
This little fella here, we call him Shorty. He's 6'7". 6'7". You got to do something for me. Put that foot up there on the thing. I want people to see that. Right on the table. Did you ever see a foot like that in your life? Isn't that wonderful? Boy, don't I wish I had an understanding like that. Gee whiz, 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 whiz. Now, Max, we just watched Hap Johnson do that. Look at him coming down. My golly, look at that. Look at him coming down that tree just like a little squirrel. I've never seen anything to beat it. My. How old a man is he?
Well, 35, half this.
35 years old? What a rugged customer. What'll he weigh, 100 and what, 180?
Oh, 75, 80 pounds. Now, he's tough.
Golly, I'll say he's tough.
Legs of steel.
Golly, we'd sure love to meet him and say hello.
Now you can have him over here.
That'll be swell. All right, now that was Hap Johnson. Jan, let's get you going this morning. You feel all right? All right. We're all here in blue jeans and sweaters and raincoats and loggers' boots.
Every day I'll fall in love all over again with you. I'll never let our love grow old. I'll always keep it new. Every day I'll let you know that my Valentine is you. We'll live the sweetest story told, like honeymooners do. And each thing I do, I'll do to prove to you romance never will die. It may be a word or a sigh, a gift that I'll bring, and as the years go by, every day I'll fall in love all over again with you. I'll never let our love grow old. I'll always keep it new. Do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. It may be a word or a sigh, a gift that I'll bring, and as the years go by, every day I'll fall in love all over again with you. I'll never let our love grow old. I'll always keep it new. 'Cause every day I'll fall in love all over again with you. I'll never let our love grow old. I'll always keep it new.
Hey, Gilly, that's beautiful. Beautiful. You saw a man go up a tree about 200 feet tall and top it. You watched him do that on our program, and now he's down on the ground. I want you to meet him in person. His name is Hap Johnson. Hap, you sweating, man. That was hard work, wasn't it?
Well, it's what a workout for breakfast, Arthur.
Didn't have any breakfast yet.
Just a cup of coffee.
Golly, how long have you been doing this work?
About 20 years now.
You're about 35 now?
Yes.
Got any children?
3.
3? You live right here, do you? Right close by?
Yes, right close there. Castle Rock.
God, the muscles on this guy. Holy smoke. He walks up that tree and he's coming down like a little squirrel. I never saw anything like that in my life.
It's easy coming down. You have gravity with you there. It's the going up that's a little difficult.
When you top that thing and it starts swaying like that, is that a real tough job to hold on?
Well, no, it's just like going to Carnival and riding the Big Dipper or something. It's kind of a lot of fun.
Is it really?
The work is about over then, and you're enjoying it.
I see your belt holds you and your feet are in and you just hold on to the top with your hand, huh?
Just brace an arm against the tree and our rope holds us to it from getting away from us. We stand on these spurs is what we walk on the trees. We have a steel core inside of these ropes, so there's not too much danger of chopping them in two. It shows the core there, and if we hit it with the axe or the saw, why unless you hit it awful hard and square, why you won't cut it in two.
Now, let's see. We've got about a 7-minute job here in felling a tree. Max is going to help me with describing this to you. Max, who's going to do this? 2 men, eh?
Yes, George Bowen and Bob Whitmarsh. They're starting her up there now.
Now what?
They took out the undercut. You are looking at the back of the tree, Arthur, from the cameras you have behind. Actually, the tree will be felled exactly toward the camera out on the field that picks it up. He is using a saw there that weighs about, he's getting the rest of the undercut, the other man in the front there. That is...
With his axe?
His axe.
And this is an electric saw?
No, that's a gas power saw. It weighs about 45 pounds. It has a chain turns over on it, and it's about 36 inches long. Now you can see the undercut, Arthur.
Oh, yeah, now we're on the other side.
Now you're at the front of it there. That tree is going to come right toward us now.
Right toward us?
Yes, that's right, camera.
5 feet through, 60 inches, a Douglas fir. How tall would you say?
Approximately 200 feet tall.
And in the neighborhood of 350 years old. And we're going to keep watching it with our...
I think he's going to yell his...
There we go.
He's making his warning cry now for anyone past the tree. So it'll just be a minute or two. It'll be ready to go now.
What is it he cries?
Timber.
Timber. Timber.
He probably said timber toward the lake or in the general direction in which it was going. There, you can see it opening up.
It's beginning to open. Here she goes. Listen. Oh, wow. Down comes a mighty monarch. Oh, she did tear a lot of wood.
Yes, it did. It was a heavy leaner, and it tore a very lot of wood there.
Now you go in and cut that up into what kind of length?
Depending on this, what it is, we'll probably cut that in 32-foot logs. Then we'll yard it out and load it on a truck and take it to the sawmill.
32 feet long by 5 feet thick. Good Lord, that's going to weigh something.
Oh yes, we're dealing in quite a number of tonnage. You see.
What manner of device do you pick that up with?
It's a large shovel, like only we have a special boom on it for picking it up, like a 2.5-yard shovel or so.
Now that's trucked into the sawmill, huh? How far away?
Well, these here are 12, 13 miles, but most of our operation, officer, we load them on logging trucks, then we haul to the railroad. We have probably one of the largest private railroads in the...
Is that the one we came under the trestle on the road?
No, that happens to be the Northern Pacific came under there, but we have about 60 miles of rail. We load them on the trucks, then we pick the entire load off the truck and put it on the railroad. And then we have diesel electric locomotives.
I see that.
Mm-hmm.
See that.
We just finished the last of the steam locomotives a year or so ago.
Just went to diesel recently,
Mm-hmm.
huh? What a treat this has been. What a far cry it is from the logging that I knew. You didn't know this, Max, but when I was a kid, when I was 15 years old, I went to work in a lumber camp in near a place called Clymer, Pennsylvania. I did all kind of odd jobs around the place, you know, served food, carried water, and brought the tools to the... They didn't call them bushlers, they call them something else.
Bull cook.
Bull cook, huh?
That's what we call them.
Uh-huh.
Handyman.
That's what I was. Huh?
Bull cook.
Yeah. they called me something else. It didn't sound like bull. If I didn't hurry up with it, he called me a little something, and I can't think what it was. It wasn't a bull cook. Oh, I enjoyed that so much. There comes the two boys back now, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's, who are they again? George Moan and Bob Whitmarsh, huh? Well, Dave, this has been the most glorious way to wind up our daytime television shows for this season. I can't think of a nicer place to finish up. We'll do a radio show tomorrow from Seattle, and we want to thank you and all your good people of Simpson.
Hap Johnson of Castle Rock, Washington, is one of the best-known logging performers in this country. In 1950, he appeared in the program You Asked For It with Art Baker as announcer, and he demonstrated how he tops trees and how rapidly he can run up and down them.
Hap Johnson, top tree topper. You asked for it. Television's greatest all-time request show, brought to you from Hollywood by Skippy.
Oh, Hap, hold it there. Come on in, will you?
My friends, I'm very anxious for you to meet Harold Hap Johnson from the Simpson Logging Company at Shelton, Washington. And his exploits in this big tree country, I tell you, would put Paul Bunyan to shame. Hap, he's here, by the way. Shall we stay from this area?
Yeah, Art, I'm aiming to follow right over there. Check on the boxes and we're all set.
Oh, good. Hap is here in order to answer this next request here from young Evan James, who lives in Shelton, Washington. Sees us over KING TV in Seattle. He said, I would like to see Harold Hap Johnson, the world champion tree topper, show me how he can fall timber to land exactly where he wants it, then do some tree topping, and then climb up and down a spar in record time. And believe me, you've given him quite a job there. All right, Evan, here is assignment number 1, tree polling for accuracy. You asked for it. This is called gunning the tree. Johnson uses the axe handle to sight where the tree is to fall. He motions for the boxes to be set along that falling line. To the left, back a bit. That's it, right there. If conditions are right, those boxes will soon be splintered. A chain power saw is used for the back cut. Its teeth bite into that Douglas fir like a horde of hungry beavers. It cuts to the wedge, and there she goes. Timber! Gosh, she missed just by an inch of a hair there, didn't you?
There must have been a small kink in the axe handle.
It must have been. That's close enough for us, though. I noticed you worked very cautiously there, and that shows the logging industry's on the job, saving accidents.
I've been climbing trees for years, Art, and feel like I've got bark growing on me. But I'm always careful.
Now he wants the topping business of the tree. Can you do that for us?
You bet we can.
All right, then. Happy landings. Let the chips fall where they may, and we'll be over here out of danger.
That rope has a steel core to withstand the stray blows of an axe. It's also his lifeline, so he ties it tautly to his safety belt. That rope and his long shank climbing spurs are his only means of reaching the topping point, some 160 feet farther up. Those spurs must penetrate the bark to solid wood. 2 steps up and a flip of the rope. That's high climbing. Tree topping is a job that calls for rugged men with skill and agility. Its purpose is to provide spar trees, like this one, braced with guy wires and rigged so long steel cables can move the fallen timber. Now, Hap's now about 40 feet from the top. He braces himself and chops a timber falling notch. Here's a swing around the tree for a back cut. Now the saw penetrates deeply into the back cut. The treetop pulls away. It's falling. What happens? He whips around up there, but he's clinging on. That spar is swaying like a reed in a high wind. What a sight.
Oh, that sends shivers up and down your spine, doesn't it, though? That's colossal. You can see why he's called the king of the high riggers. But now, when it comes to speed climbing, wait till you see. All he uses now are these spurs on his feet and that safety rope of his, and he goes up and down a tree like a squirrel. Say, you all set, Hap? All right, I'll clock you both ways here.
That flag, fluttering at the very top of this 70-foot spur, is Hap's objective in this speed climb. On this trip, he travels right, no axe or saw. All right, stand by. Go. Look at him take off. Whips that rope, digs his spurs, up he goes. 70 feet to the top. That lumberjack is really traveling. He's reaching for the flag. He's got it. Down it goes. 22 seconds, Hap. Let's see what you can do coming down. Yeah, 22 seconds. We'll see what you can do coming down. Ready? Get set. Go.
Boy, made that down in 9 seconds. 22 up is 31 seconds for the round trip. Say, Hap, the way you came down that tree, I ought to be smoking, really.
We don't want to set them on fire, Art. Trees are our bread and butter.
And they're important to us. We ought to remember that. No fires this summer vacation driving. Hap, I want to thank you very much indeed. And for the Simpson Logging Company at Shelton, Washington, for this cooperation. Thank you,
Art.
And this is Coffee just in time to say I'll see you next week.
Portions of the preceding program were on film.
See Saturday Night Fights on ABC television.
There has been no finer presentation of the work and the skills of the high climber than the film Spar Tree, which was made by a British Columbia firm several years ago, starring Hap Johnson. That'll be it.
I don't know when I'll quit. I ain't going to say I'm going to retire and then keep on going all this way till I get too stove up to get up there, I guess.
Well, young Sol Simpson came out west to a land by the rolling sea. Sol said, I can log this land, and he made him a company. Well, a friend said, Sol, I like you fine, but I don't know about this here company. And Sol said, Red, you can just rest your old head, 'cause that company's nothing but you and me. Yeah, the company is you and me. It ain't nothing but you and me.
The company Sol Simpson founded in 1890 has grown with the times. This is a story about Simpson people. Camp Grisdale is one of the last of the resident logging camps in the Pacific Northwest. Set in the rugged Olympic Peninsula of Washington State, it is a living reminder of an older time. As in Sol Simpson's day, the forest is still the foundation, the beginning. Driemeyer is logging foreman at Camp Grisdale. He has been working out of this camp since 1946. Frank is the third generation of his family to work these woods.
I got my topping saw that I used to top by hand, hanging up on the wall in the wife's utility room, and I like to look at it once in a while, but I sure as hell wouldn't want to go back and do it again.
I make a trade. I got two green chokermen on.
Used to be, you know, it was an 18 shirt and a 2 hat, and here you went. But now it's you got to use a little braid. So these young fellas that we got coming up now are pretty much of a multi-skilled logger. And really, I'm quite impressed with a lot of them. Simpson hires me for one thing, to get the logs out in a safe and, you know, expeditious manner, and this is the thing that I try to do, because I figure if Simpson makes money, well, then I make money. But I'm doing something I like and something I believe in. We've got the world's worst ground. I mean, everybody talks about rough ground, but they come up here and take a look, and then, oh my God. Probably the most of the guy's physical effort now is actually getting in and getting out. Sometimes if they get over the hump, you know, it might foul them up. How much they got left on this road, Chris, you know?
Well, they're down there in a whole pile of them.
Yeah, oh. Yeah. All along, huh?
They were down there today where that one snag is, where it comes up that's busted, you know?
Yeah?
Top. They've been right there all day. Just down, and they've just gone over the...
Yeah, of course, everything here will run right down in there.
Yeah, right. And this is what they've been getting out all this long.
Yeah. You know, we knock Simpson, but I know a lot of guys that work for other outfits. And I feel that and this is all sincerity too, that Simpson takes care of their own people.
Frank and his crew are logging in the famous Shelton Cooperative Sustained Yield Unit. This unit is a unique agreement between government and private industry. In 1946, a 100-year contract was signed between Simpson Timber Company and the United States Forest Service. Over 300,000 acres of public and company land are combined into a single unit, jointly managed by Simpson and the Forest Service. This agreement has proved so successful that the allowable timber harvest from this land has nearly doubled in the first 3 decades of operation. Harvesting and reforestation are perfectly balanced, assuring that there will be perpetual timber crops.
I was here when the Sustained Yield Unit first went through Congress, you know, and now the older this unit gets, the better everybody likes it, especially the Forest Service.
Skylines across the 230.
Yeah, no problem. We'll pick them up. Monday when you get the Forest Service people here have the power to make decisions on the job, and I think this has made it much better for both, you know, because the on-the-job decision a lot of times is the one that makes money for both sides. I've been around here long enough I can see the Sustained Yield Unit in action. I mean, you can see the second growth, you can see the system of block cutting and how it works. This was the hardest thing I remember when I first started in the woods for me to perceive, that I couldn't see any way that stuff could grow that fast.
Although this area was clear-cut 40 years ago, today it is covered again by a healthy second-growth forest. The primary purpose of the Sustained Yield Unit is to provide a stable economy for local communities. Without such a plan, many small towns, McClary, Elma, Montesano, perhaps even Shelton, would have become ghost towns as timber resources ran out. Today, Shelton is one of the largest wood products manufacturing centers of the Pacific Northwest.
Here's some of the last logs coming out of Grisdale. Some of the old pumpkins that we're so used to seeing in the past. This is looking up the right of way towards Grisdale. We got about 8 inches of snow here. There she goes. Last of an era.
Simpson came out west, and he made him a company. With a few good horses and a few good men, and a love of the life that's free. Well, the seed he planted sure grew tall. There's near 6,000 of us now in all. And old Saul, he saw what we all can see. The company is nothing but you and me. And nothing but you and me. The company is you and me.
Those trees we're looking at right now was part of the bunkhouse area years ago, and they took out bunkhouses and planted trees. We're looking right now at where the flunky shack was, and the tree that you see right in the middle there is where the dinky sat for many years, and it's now restored and in operation. I'd like to point out that in the early days of Grisdale, this timber you're looking at right here was not there at all. It was just totally bare. We're standing right in my old office area on the slab of the truck shop, and we're looking out towards the main entrance to Grisdale, down towards the family area, the ball field.
Beyond the ball field were the 50 homes.